the only way to create word-of-mouth recommendations is by creating a product that knocks the sock off people. You're not only having to create something where they create an aha moment, but you need to turn them into fans. The problem is not that marketing is not accurately promising things that are true. The problem is we as consumers have been burned so many times that the differentiator in the market is not whether you're promising something, but whether you can show me that your promise is true in a relatively short time without me having to spend too much time.
Welcome back to All the Hats, the unofficial support group for small marketing teams. I'm Alicia Lay. Today, we're digging into product-led growth, what it is, why it matters, and how to make it work when your team is small.
And I'm Ómar Thor Ómarsson. Our guest today is Leah Tharin, known for helping teams grow by letting the product do more of the selling.
Thank you so much for joining us, Leah Tharin. We are incredibly thrilled to have you on the show. You are a leader in product-led marketing. And just a little intro into our audience. Most of our audience are small B2B market teams, and you have helped enterprise companies with their product-led growth strategies. And what we are hoping to get from you and industry leaders like yourself on this podcast is helping take that information out of your mind and figuring out how this can translate to our small marketing teams. So we will also use Ómar and his company Optimize as a great example because he is, his goal is to be a product-led growth company for Optimize. But I can see that he is also very busy rushing around, also taking sales calls as well. And as a CEO and founder, he's a one-man team in this sense. And like if we wanted to scale, we cannot clone more Ómars.
Let's just put it this way. It's really tough to get to product-led growth. It's a lot of different steps that you need to kind of iron out. And I'm just really thrilled to get some advice on how to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on this. And I will send you a bill after this call, then, of course. But this is what I do usually. I advise smaller companies in how to think about product-led growth and how to get this entire like growth thing right. I guess that's a good summary.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be the number one. I've seen that this is the number one like fall point where you have this goal of being a product-led growth company, and then you've got the direct success of a salesperson, a human, making sure that things are crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready to move more, you think you need another person. And I feel like at some point, some misstep has been taken and we've all of a sudden derailed. Would you say that there's something in there in these beginning stages that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, so first of all, I think defining product-led growth as a goal is sort of like saying that I want to be a boss in the future and that is my life's aspiration. It's not a correct goal, but it's also not completely wrong in a way.
Okay.
So
I like
there
it.
is no inherent reason, I feel like, to say that, we as a company should be product-led in any way or like that we should do product-led growth. It's oftentimes the correct answer. And maybe we can also talk about what product-led growth is, specifically from the side where I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about the simplest definition in like how you distribute your product, like how you're getting access to the markets and then how you're going to send it afterwards to your banking account, if you want to call it that, then this is a fundamental part of the question, how do I get access into a big enough market for a cost that is scalable afterwards? So this is one of the main questions that we have at the moment, right? Like it's not hard to get some people into the product. It's not hard to advertise somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty is to find the correct people and then have a motion that does not give you a migraine if you're just looking at it, just like from the numbers, right? If money is there, I can do pretty much anything. Like I can give someone $100 to get into my product and then spend $50 there. It's just not very cost efficient, right? Because I'm actually losing on the other side of the deal. But I think what you were also saying is if you think about product-led growth being sort of like the other side of sales-led growth, so you have a person in the mix,
Mm-hmm.
then the comparison in general falls a little bit short because it's not just that. Just like maybe for definition, if it's okay, I'll just define
Yeah,
That would be
how would you
awesome.
define
Yeah.
product-led growth?
Exactly. So what is product-led growth? Product-led growth is a term that exists predominantly in B2B. So when we're selling from business to other businesses, because in business you have a choice. You usually can either sell over a salesperson, as we said already, or you can sell over the product itself. It's kind of like this notion that came up like 5 to 10 years ago that a product is selling itself. And this is sort of like the difference between, we call it high touch and self-serve. So self-serving means I can, on a website, inform myself, I can onboard myself into a trial, and then I can also buy the product without having to go over a salesperson. That's sort of like the simplified kind of way of this. So it's about self-served versus being high-touched through someone from sales that is like helping you along the process. The difficult reality of this is that in most cases, if a company is starting to grow, and that is our goal anyways that we have, the answer is not that simple anymore. You have oftentimes a mix between product-led growth. So for instance, I'm going to self-serve you a lot of information that we have, maybe even the trial. But then in order to kind of close the contract, because of, that's the deal sometimes for complex companies, you have to go over sales to have the pricing discussion and the rebates and so forth. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes it needs someone from sales or from customer success to explain to you more difficult integrations, like how this is going to work, but then you can buy it on the website self-served again. So what I'm trying to say here is that product-led growth is not so much a replacement for sales-led growth. It's more like, depending on to whom you want to sell, it is just a different alternative in what you're using. Am I using the product itself, or am I using a salesperson to kind of facilitate parts of this entire flow? So having said that, there are different advantages that you have if you just compare what you're doing when you're self-serving something versus if you're doing it over a salesperson. You already mentioned this. So the product-led growth thing, it usually means that the cost for the company to serve this information in a self-served way over a website, over a trial and so forth, or a freemium is very, very low. So the incremental cost added to this is not that high, right? Like if I funnel like 1,000 people into my product, it doesn't cost me that much more money. So from a cost perspective, this is a very kind of clear, at least in theory, winner. I'm pretty sure that Ómar's problem is not to get, is not the cost on the side of the people that are going into the trial, but like to find enough people who are willing to use the trial in the first place.
Totally.
And also to know whether they are the correct people as well. So I don't know, but like we can also like bounce this back and forth between each other. It's just product-led growth specifically is when you have a choice. So like, let's say I have a product that is somewhere in the market that everybody knows, and the customers have a choice between using yours or anything else, and the thing that they want at the stage can be self-served, then it should be self-served. Does that make sense? So if I want to have specific information and it can be self-served, then I will do it, because going over a salesperson is not only more expensive, but also for the customer, it requires much more time.
Yeah.
And that's why in commoditized markets where I have exchangeable products for the same thing that I want to do, the more likely it is that you need to use product-led growth so you can differentiate yourself from the rest.
I mean, that makes total sense, and that's, sets us up for I have a billion questions for you. I mean, Alicja and I, we've worked at a marketing agency together, and, I don't know how many times customers would say, hey, I want to do product-led growth now. Can we do that, today? So I think it takes time and a lot of learnings to get to that moment where it actually clicks, actually.
Yeah, and I love that. If the thing can be self-serve, it should be self-serve. But let me ask you more specifically. Do you mean that the parts of the process should be self-serve, or the part of the sales process should be self-serve? Is that what you mean?
Yes to everything.
Okay.
So this is what makes this entire thing so complicated.
Yeah.
Let's just start at the very, very beginning. What is the purpose of a company, generally speaking? it is about creating not a great product, but a successful product. And a successful product is a product that is great for a very specific segment inside of the market that is big enough that can be monetized. And a successful product is one that has a go-to-market motion from marketing and growth that is getting access to this particular market. So afterwards, you can add other people to it in this entire kind of motion to scale it. Right? So there's always a CAC that we are talking about. So like the cost per acquisition, how much money do we spend before we're getting something in? Everybody that works in marketing is familiar with this. Or like the cost per click or whatever you want to call it. What we try to do with product-led growth, on one hand, is a cost efficiency kind of thing. But on the other side, it is also a differentiator because you're getting more access to customers in the same kind of market where you're trying to sell into in general. Now, there is another side to this because usually sales-led growth, so if you go to people and so forth, they have a goal of closing clients as high as possible because this is in the interest of the company and it's also in the interest of the salesperson itself, right? Like I want to kind of like subscribe this person as much as I can because I get a bonus from it. In your case, Ómar, it's not like that because you're the founder. You just want to have some kind of customers, but you're also interested in getting a little bit more money. But in product-led growth, what we try to do, conversely, is we try to close the customers as low as possible because we know if we get someone in at a lower price point, they will expand with us afterwards much, much, much more. Now, this sounds counterintuitive, but it has to deal with the effect that product-led growth can only pay for itself if this long-term expansion is also happening. So I'll give you a very specific example. If you think about HubSpot, which is a CRM in the market, it's kind of like Salesforce or whatever. HubSpot could not exist just from their product-led growth clientele. So if you go to HubSpot.com and you go into this, it's a great product also for marketers and salespeople and so forth. The reason why this company is valued over like 20 to 30 billion in market cap is because quite a lot of these users that are coming in, so out of 100 smaller accounts, the percentage of them, so like 10 to 15% or whatever, per year are starting to grow while they're with HubSpot, right? So they're becoming also bigger while they're there. And that in turn means that you're getting share of enterprise value before it is actually enterprise value, if that makes sense. The thing that you have to make sure in this regard is that if you acquire people with product-led growth, that you can also keep them. And that they're also staying with you if they scale. So you do not want to have a product that becomes useless if your client is starting to scale. So this is already a big difference to sales-led growth because what we want to make sure is we're going to get customers as low as possible with their monetization information. But if they grow, we start to grow with them. Usage-based pricing, all that kind of stuff. And a good tool to do this is trials and freemiums because the customer is not buying anything in the bag. If, like the cat is not sort of like, how do you say in English? They're not buying the cat in the bag.
Cat's in the bag still.
Exactly.
But that's a great example with HubSpot, for example, because Alicia and I have used HubSpot for years, and how they got me was with the free CRM. And then I started looking at the sales and marketing packages. But when I started looking at their pricing and the packages and all the different variations, it was just super confusing to me. And that's when they handed me over to sales because I couldn't understand their, their packages, and then I had to have a success manager. But
at the same time, like we started on the freemium, and then once it was part of once the salesman got their fingers and nails and teeth into you, then you were buying more product from them, and then as the company grew, so did HubSpot's wallet.
Absolutely,
as we did.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's a great example. So,
okay, so
here's
another question. Sorry.
Please.
You were talking about differentiator. So with product-led growth, and you were talking about the differentiator before, then how much of this is messaging and messaging on, messaging on the website or messaging on land page? It sounds to me like from what you were saying that a lot of it goes hand in hand, or that it would go hand in hand.
So this goes now into the role of marketing in this entire thing. When we're talking about product-led growth or like marketing-led growth, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
If someone comes to your house and it rings your door and you open the door and they say that, hey, listen, here's a bag with $1 million in it. I'll give it to you for $50,000. Are you going to buy it?
I don't
Sure.
know.
I mean, what's the catch?
Well, I can only give you the bag after you've given me the money. But I'm pretty sure there's $1 million in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm
Like,
not gonna buy. I'm gonna say thanks, but no thanks.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
it's gonna depend. It's gonna depend whether the person that is telling you this is your father, your mother, someone that you know.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
I
Trust.
always
Well-
expected it to be a stranger, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, that depends, right? This is what I'm saying. Like, this is what brand marketing is. So, like, we try to create a brand in the market so people trust us more
Yeah.
likely than others. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And my example was a bit stupid because it's kind of like a scam, but it's the same principle if you go and ask someone, hey, what are you driving right now? Like, and then you say, "Oh, I don't know, like a Volvo for $50,000 and so forth." And I'm coming around and say like, hey, I have a better car for 20,000. You're going to save so much money from it. It's objectively the better deal. The problem is not that marketing is not accurately promising things that are true. The problem is we as consumers have been burned so many times from wrong promises that the differentiator in the market is not whether you're promising something, but whether you can show me that your promise is true in a relatively short time without me having to spend too much time. So let me explain what I mean with this. 10 to 15 years ago, we started to have freemiums in general, like, I don't know, Spotify and so forth. So you can listen to Spotify. You can go to Spotify's website. You can listen to some of the songs. Then you create an account. You have some advertising in between. But I get a pretty good idea on what I'm getting in a relatively fast time. Now think about what's necessary for a B2B product to kind of fulfill the same promise, where you don't have one user, but you have multiple users. You have a buyer. You have probably team members that need to also like organize around this. You maybe have like one main user, maybe you have some admins and some stuff, depending on like how complex your solution is. Now, the problem of this is it takes me maybe 2 to 3 minutes to evaluate a Spotify or like some other faster service there. But in B2B, the amount of time that it takes me to kind of evaluate something is starting to get quite high, even if it's just very, very fast. I'm not talking about the cost. I'm talking simply about how much time it takes for me to understand what this product is. So like, let's say I'm going to go to you and I say like, hey, I'm a product marketing manager and I would like to understand whether we can use a different tool, and one from HubSpot, like their marketing CM, like their marketing hub. Can we use this for us internally, right? You're going to have so many discussions with the founder, the amount of cost that it has, with all the team members and so forth. It's not just about like starting a trial, right? Like you also need to probably convince people that this is worth their time, because now you need to convince other people that they should also try out this kind of stuff. Now, going back to this example from why the HubSpot approach is so great. If someone else in the company is already using HubSpot and they use the same email, like the same email domain at the end, they will say that, hey, should we add you to the team that is already existing? So this is why this is so clever. There are now internal champions. Hey, how is it to work with HubSpot in general? And then they say like, hey, the support has been great. I had this customer success manager, even though it had nothing to do with the product that I want to get, right? Like maybe I want to get the marketing suite, but the salesperson is telling me it's great to work with this company. This is brand creation on a very kind of local level. So trust is already there. So what we try to do is we're trying to increase the chance that people have in their head from the promise that marketing makes between cashing in on that premise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because now I'm going to get to the very, very sad point of this entire kind of story. Marketing messaging and promising what you do and then what is afterwards true or not has become infinitely harder and will get so much more harder now in the future for two reasons. The first one is there are so many products in the market right now that you're starting to compete with a lot of different marketing teams that do exactly the same in the same solution, in the same industry that you do. So your cost per click is going to go up. We do not know how it works with AI versus, like classical SEO and so forth. So the cost and the noise is starting to increase. And then the other side is you might think it is a boon for marketing teams to create powerful messages. We're not going to make spelling mistakes anymore. We can create AI pictures for your campaign and so forth. But the effect on the customer is they start to identify everything that looks like that. It's probably bullshit. I cannot trust anymore B2B marketing teams or anything for the matter that is coming from the internet, because beforehand I was able to sort of at least say like, hey, this is a company with a lot of budget, because it looks more polished. So that's where we're going to become blind towards marketing because the noise is starting to increase.
Yeah.
And we're getting burned by the messages all the time.
And that's kind of what I love about product-led growth or product marketing is that's like, just try the product for yourself. And if you like it, buy it. If you don't have to buy it. So stop me if I'm wrong, because this is kind of how I think about product-led growth as a flywheel or, in different stages. It starts with some kind of awareness of the product or the company. That could be a campaign or an ad, or you hear about it somewhere. And then you go to a paid website or a landing page or something like that. You learn a little bit more about it. And then you have some kind of offer, like a free trial or a freemium or something like that. And you can sign up for that. You sign up for it, and then you get into the product itself. And that's where the magic happens or doesn't happen. It's like that's where you have an experience or series of experiences that either make you go, wow, that's amazing. That solves a problem for me, or that creates value for me. Or it's underwhelming and you're like, I don't really need this. And then you decide at the end of that experience whether you want to buy it or not. And if you love it enough, you're actually gonna, shout it from the, the mountain and go, hey, everybody, I tried this new product. I love it. Everybody else, you check it out as well. And if you do that whole thing really well, it's a flywheel that kind of expands and expands and expands and expands.
In the end, what this is like it's a word of mouth marketing machine. So like this is very much on brand, right? So like what it does is we try to create recommendations at the end of it from users that are happy with it, because if they're not happy with it, they're not going to convert into paid customers.
Yeah.
Which is not a statement that you can make about the sales-driven motion, like purely at least. However, there's a big problem in what you just said. It's true what you said, but the challenge nowadays is not anymore to, well, in some ways it is, but like the challenge is on one hand, of course, you also want to convert free users into paid users.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to also structure the trial. We can also talk about this. So it converts as many people into paid accounts from free to paid. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not just product-led growth. What I'm trying to say is that you still need to convince people in some kind of way to trust marketing enough so they're even considering you.
Yeah.
And this gap in between is relatively new, but also falls with growth teams and not marketing. So we see this quite a lot, for instance. When you think about what a marketer did 10 to 20 years ago, then you think usually about, it's the website, it's the homepage, it's the landing page, it's the messaging in there, and then also the campaigns, the in-person events, Google Ads and so forth. I would wager nowadays, because the entire field is so incredibly competitive, they do only stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with on the website. SEO, to some degree for sure, but also in-person events, ad management, campaign management, and so forth. I get all of this. All of this starts to make sense. But how many times did you read the homepage from a corporate entity when you were trying to make product decisions? I wager not a single fucking time in the last month. And you know why? Because nobody just goes on your website to think, today I want to buy a car, or today I want to try a new product that is accidentally like what this is. Everybody comes with a specific context. They come either from an advertising, they come from a word of mouth recommendation, or they come from some kind of campaign or some whatever. So they already have some kind of outside context. But what usually people land on is this generic marketing bullshit that is just like another rehash of basically, it's kind of like, hey, hi, my name is Leah. I'm this and that. I don't care. Just tell me what you have. It's kind of like the same as these YouTube videos where people introduce themselves for so long and you're just thinking that, dude, tell
Get
what
to the
you
point.
want
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
So what we're starting to see is we see products that are completely getting rid of their homepage in a way, and they drop you extremely fast into the product. You cannot always do this, but for instance, Rose, like ROWS.com, is making a really good job at this because they know that most of the people are coming from the outside. And what it does is you go there and you immediately land inside of a spreadsheet where you can start to use the product because that's what they are. They're a competitor to the product.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get to their pricing page or to some other stuff. The product is immediately there. No registration, no nothing. You can just play around with it immediately. And that is given to the fact that most of the generic stuff that we've been using is not working because people have learned that they don't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying you need to convince people more. And this go-to-market motion in promising to people and also getting them to kind of try your stuff is actually much harder right now than just like structuring only the trial.
Okay, so just to recap, you're saying to close the gap, we need to get people into your product, using the product and feeling that difference and feeling the value just like immediately, as opposed to me telling you the value.
Yes, but that is only possible. And I need to now start at the end of it. I'll try to keep it short. The only way that you are convincing someone that they're buying a product or that they're using a specific service is if you convince them that what they have been doing, even if it's nothing, this is also an alternative,
Yep.
has been decisively worse and that this is worth their time and their money.
Yeah.
Right? We would agree. So
Yeah.
there needs to be a big enough gap between the current situation and the future situation that they're going to. So we're trying to kind of like show them how this feels with the trial and the freemium and so forth, and then we're going to go into. But the fact remains, for just like a marginal improvement, nobody's going to, shift all their data to the new service and so forth. Like a Spotify for me as well. Like I don't like Spotify that much anymore. But before I actually migrate away, the new service needs to be really, really, really much better for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having said that, the problem now is that and this is what most companies get wrong completely, all across all the stages. They do not know who their ideal customer is. And I want to explain to you now why this is so important. The ideal customer profile is usually the concept of who are a small segment of my entire kind of company, customer base, that get the most value from us and where we get the most value from them.
Yeah.
Getting
Exactly.
value from the customers is payment. Getting value from us is what we give to the customers.
Yeah.
It pisses me off to no end that I still have companies at a relatively big size that are saying, oh, our ICPs are sorted by size. We have enterprise and then we have smaller ones. That's not an ICP. An ideal customer profile is a very, very, very narrow definition of a description of someone that does not describe your entire kind of user base. And why this is important is if you know who your ICP is, and I think we have to give a very practical example in a second, but like if you know who your ICP is, then you can also start to kind of assume what they care about, which is then also what you put on the website, if anything, as the differentiator. And just very quickly on this, if I buy a solution, I need to inform the people about three things. The first one is the price. Is this somewhat in the budget that I could afford? If someone cannot afford it, then they're not going to spend it. The second is the table stakes. Does this do what I think it should do? So table stakes for a car is 4 wheels, 2 or more doors, and that is legal in the country where I want to drive it. This is what lands you on a comparison sheet. But the thing that makes you buy is a differentiator. What makes this special over the other thing that I already have? And if the differentiators are not big enough, then you're going to decide on price. That's the short kind of like summary of this. I hope this makes sense. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
That was awesome. I've taken so many notes, and it's so funny that you talked about the ICP because I was just in a meeting today with some clients and I asked them who their ICP was, and they gave me these broad stroke answer, and I said, I'm asking you specifically. There's one out of your entire customer suite who gives you the most value and who is the least amount of strain on your product team and us and servicing. Just give me one name. And they really had to go, it was a discussion back and forth between all of them. And I'm glad that we did that exercise. So
if you think about the commercial perspective of this, like let's say there is an objective kind of market for you, Ómar, right? So like for your company, you have a specific market that you could target.
Yeah.
There are two possibilities. Either you target a market that is too broad, means you address too many people, which makes you very undifferentiated, and it's very hard to kind of get anyone into it. Like potentially you can address the entire world, but like that would be a too broad definition.
Yeah.
The other possibility is that you're too narrow, which could mean something like, hey, I'm designing this thing that only my mom likes, and then you cannot scale it anymore because you only have one mother, of course, right? So it's then way too narrow. But for this particular person, because you're spending so much time on it, she will be very happy. What do you think is the main reason for companies to blow up? Because they are too specific or because they are too broad?
I would for sure say specific.
Yeah, too specific for sure.
They're being too specific?
When you say blow up, you mean like grow or like...
No. Sorry, they go bankrupt. They go...
Then too broad.
Broad,
Okay,
broad, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're always too broad. And then you can ask the question, how many of them understand that they're too broad? And I would say, well, I still think that the majority does, but they still cannot do anything about it. And that's an interesting thing to me, because I talk about this with company founders all day long. Like every week I have some kind of conversation around this entire topic. And I'm trying to kind of teach them in how to get to an ICP definition that is really valuable for this. And I know you also had Anthony Pieri on the call, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
He was also talking about differentiation. It's kind of like going into the same thing. The problem that most founders have is that a dedicated kind of messaging that makes you differentiated, makes you special in the market, means you're going to say no to another segment. But that is exactly what you have to do.
Yeah.
Show me first that you can convert one paying customer and then 10 and then 100 before you start to become too big. I cannot tell you how many companies I have, smaller ones that are coming to me that are trying to imitate bigger brands because they see their messaging and they think like, oh, if I just do the same, like Lovable, for instance.
Yeah.
Oh, Lovable has crossed 200 million in growth. Therefore, if we just copy what they do and we change the logo, then it's going to be kind of like the same. And I said like, well, the problem is you're not differentiated and they have a brand and you do not.
Yeah.
And that's so difficult for most companies to kind of understand and to execute on, that I could probably have a second career just on this particular topic.
Yeah.
Are there would you say in general, there are certain like categories that you like to define an ICP? Do you break it down in any sense that we could give to our...
Yeah. So if you don't mind, we can also put it in the show notes afterwards. I have a free article on this, on like how you find your first ICP or like how this is. I would just say like as a general kind of summary of it, it makes sense to think about ICPs in terms of their behavior. Now, why is this important? So rather than saying our ICP is a marketing agency with 50 people in the Midwest, you could say something like, we are solving a very specific problem for a marketing director that is leading its first team. I'm kind of like saying now the same thing because marketing directors only start to come up, if anything, in that particular company size in a way. But I'm now starting to describe a very specific problem that they have where I can also then be more specific. So the thing is this. With product-led growth or like a trial or a freemium that you're going to have on the website, the messaging and so forth, you expose people to behavior and experiences, right? So what I mean with is like, here's the product, play around with it. If I'm just categorizing ICPs or like in the ideal customer profiles by size and location, then it's very hard for a product manager to create a product based on this. Usually, scale can help you a little bit, right? Like it matters whether you have 50 people that are working on a product or like just one person, like do I need account management or not? But beyond that, it's very, very hard to design a product for this. So imagine, there is a very big difference between designing a car for moms that have just had a baby in the last 6 months and they're now looking for a new family car. because right now then I can say like, oh, so what is their problem? Their usual problem is that they have always their hands full. They probably need a bigger version than they used to have with the old car. Maybe they also need some help with selling their old car. And now because they just had a baby, they probably have they don't have the time to think for this. So maybe we can also offer a service to make it easier for them. It gives you so much input into what someone struggles with rather than just like describing the environment that they're in,
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, Midwestern family with an income above 200,000. It's not very helpful. Whereas describing the problem that someone has that they're dealing with is very powerful to structure your trials around the messaging and everything that comes afterwards as well.
I've got a question for you for my own selfish reasons. 2 questions, actually. I'm going to start with one. And I'm okay, like just if you can answer just brutally honest, did you check out the Optized website at any point?
I can do it now if you want to. We can do it live.
Could you open it up? I mean, I'd be
Because I'm wondering, after what Leah just said, I'm
Because-
wondering if you would
if we're too broad
restructure,
or
too broad, and also if you would restructure your free trial to be more around just not your genre, which is B2B SaaS,
yeah.
but kind of like, how do we say that you're a single mom with no time on your hands? Basically.
So this is a very good kind of like example on why I usually do not do product teardowns
Yeah.
without the founders being present.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
because I usually do not know what your hypothesis is behind it. And usually I'm also not an expert in your field or like in your industry, but that matters by a lot whether I should understand it or whether I should not understand it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you know what I mean, right? So like, for
Yeah.
instance, there are some products for medical professionals like radiologists and so forth where you would not understand a single word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are absolutely fantastic for these people and they are the ICPs. So you need to be okay with, disappointing people in this regard. But because we have one of the founders in the call today, we can talk about it. So I went to optized.com, right? Like it's the thing with the headline of website analytics that finally makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Go crazy.
So I've never seen this page before. So I'm just, let me see whether I can find something.
Yeah.
So it says you're a B2B marketer, not a data scientist. With Optized, it's easy to understand your website and know exactly what actions to take to sell more. What is the problem that you're trying to address for your ICP, whoever that is?
I am trying to help them make sense of their website analytics data, especially if they're a B2B team. So they can get more optimize their website, understand their website, optimize their website, so it drives more traffic, is more engaging, and then people are more likely to convert and turn into customers through the website.
I saw
So-
that you eliminated the word leads out of your mouth.
I'm not allowed to say leads for some reason,
So your typical first client would be a B2 market, like the first B2B marketer inside of a company, or the founder, for instance, that is
Yes.
like marketing.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
Okay. What is their biggest frustration in the day?
That the current website analytics tools are too complicated, and they can't.
They don't know what actions to take from what Google Analytics
And they're
are
not
telling them.
actionable. Yeah.
And what you're promising is insights that they can trust.
Yes. Insights and suggestions they can trust.
And you are going to automate which part?
So we're automating the analysis and the insights and suggested actions generation. So once they log in, they will see, all their metrics that they're used to, but they will also get context, will tell you what's going on their website, and will tell them what they should do to actually improve their website.
So your hypothesis is that if I have this product, I will not only get a better overview, or like not only will my analytics make more sense, it will also help me make very, very specific decisions that I would not make if I would use a competitor's product.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that these marketers would say that their current problem is that I don't know what to do.
Yes.
Or like I don't know what to do right now in the day because marketing has become so difficult.
There's so much data out there that you're overloaded with data, and you don't have time to go through all of this data and analyze it and decipher it. So
I would say just to fine tune that. It's not that I don't know what to do in the day. It's I have so much to do in the day that I don't know what the next step should be or what the
So
priority task should be.
so it's about helping to prioritize and identify the biggest gaps.
The biggest problem points, I would say, yeah.
I would also say though that just website analytics are complicated. Not everybody is equipped to kind of be able to like immediately see from the metrics that Google Analytics gives you, oh, this is what my next step should be. So that's kind of what,
Yeah,
you know, making it simple for them to know, also telling them what to do is, or suggesting what to do as
Yeah.
well.
I formed an opinion. Let me divulge it a little bit with you. So I think because this is a company that is, or like you're trying to target the companies where there's like one marketer in it at the moment, right? So like the first one you said.
Yeah,
So
yeah, small
probably
marketing teams, yeah.
talking about a company size of like 5 to 20 people,
Yep,
which means they're going to pay at max a couple $100s per month at the very, very max.
yep.
For a solution like this, maybe a little bit more, but this is essentially a license for one kind of like person in this regard. Funny enough, I know a lot of companies that make similar kind of claims, and that they say that, hey, we're generating insights for you out of the data automatically and enable you to do a better job than you used to do with what a competitor's product would do. So is it fair to say that a typical competitor would be Google Analytics?
I mean, yes, that's that. My frustration with Google Analytics was the spark for this company.
Do you want to hear first about the product person, because I'm a product manager by trade, on like what I think the overall thing is, or should we just go in the website itself, like from the top of funnel?
Just whatever you think makes more sense. I'm dying to hear what you're going to say.
Okay. If I have worked in marketing and I know a little bit of the tools already, so I'm not a beginner in that sense, which is the only target group that you have, because you're already banking on like, hey, website analytics is fucking hard to get right, and you know this because you know you've been using all these other products.
Yeah.
Then I do not believe the claim that you have on the website where you say that, hey, we're going to suggest actions to you, like, hey, we're going to write a LinkedIn post about you. I've just seen this right now in the video. Or, hey, traffic from ChatGPT is down by 5%. We need to rank higher and so forth. I just do not believe you that you can conceivably have a solution that works with this for two reasons. First one is, I know from experience that any of these insights can only work if all the data is connected inside of the company to make suggestions like this. I have not seen a single company where this is the case, because everybody's using different tools, you know, like something is over there and then there's a presentation that the AI doesn't know about and so forth. I also personally don't think that this is where the value is. However, if we are saying that I'm giving you an analytics tool that doesn't confuse you with things you should not worry about, because it doesn't help you drive any decisions, so really a tool for marketers in a product-led growth environment, for instance, then you can start to say something like website analytics for B2B SaaS marketers with nothing else. So we're starting to become focused. We say that, hey, we're not going to show you any metrics that do not make any sense for this, right? It's because what you have to think about, like if a competitor's product is Google Analytics, what is Google Analytics used for? In which companies? Pretty much all businesses that have a website. So rather than saying like you're covering so much of the value chain for pretty much everything, right? For every marketer in the world, in a sense, you can start to also kind of like, you know, you can narrow it down. I don't know whether you're targeting B2B SaaS marketers in that sense, but they have very unique challenges. How do I make sure that I'm not getting into trouble because I'm not seeing a specific metric going completely out of, hey, go crazy? So that would be something, for instance, where I know that a lot of marketers have a lot of problems because some metric went shit, and then only after 2 weeks they heard about it. That's the first thing. The second thing is knowing what's happening in your funnel is already quite a big ask in that sense, and that's a good thing. But the other problem is attribution. So knowing where to attribute traffic to is a huge problem in marketing. So if I am doing, for instance, an in-person event, how can I make sure that I know that the MQLs, so the marketing qualified leads that are generated from this, are actually valuable or not? This is a very, very, very basic, very, very simple to define problem that is quite hard to solve. Personally, I would advise you to just narrow it down much, much, much more and just say like, hey, we're going to give you analytics that are not so overwhelming the entire time, and you're not going to miss that one thing that gets you in trouble with other tools. I don't know about the wording itself. I don't think your pitch is weak in any sense. I'm just saying between your claim and the thing that I see on the right-hand side, which is the video, that's the closest to I have to product-led analytics, there's an incredibly big gap where I just don't trust you, based from my experience.
That's, I mean, that's, I think, like,
Super
so,
helpful.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, like very helpful.
To talk through your process a little bit for what you just did at Optize, what I heard you do was you asked Ómar what his ICP is,
Correct.
and where his hypothesis was, and what he thinks that the product is going to do to help.
Yeah.
And then you basically broke that down to say, like, well, are you going to be delivering enough value? Do I trust the promises that you're going to be giving? Or do I need to narrow this down a little bit more? Is that correct? Did I miss a step?
Always start from the problem.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
cannot talk about the problem, then you have no business in being in business. So you said at the very beginning, Ómar, that you were having a lot of conversations with people, right? Like sales-led.
Yeah.
You're-
Yes.
You're trying to get customers and people to be in the trial and so forth, right? So you have a lot of conversations with them.
Yeah.
The best product-led motions are guided by sales-led insights that the founders are doing because they're continuously talking to customers.
Mm-hmm.
There is no substitute to this. No ChatGPT will tell you what matters.
Yeah.
They can tell you some kind of broad thing, but the details in what you should focus on and so forth is going to come up with conversations and conversations and conversations, where at some point you start to notice a little bit of a commonality in specific industries.
Yeah.
For instance, let's say you focus only on B2B SaaS in medical services,
Mm-hmm.
just as an example.
Yeah.
So you start to narrow down even more. Then you start to see some issues. Hey, why are you guys not using amplitude? Why are you guys not using Mixpanel? And then they say something to the then, oh, we're not allowed to use those because of the way that they store the data, because of HIPAA or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
start to see, oh, okay, why couldn't they do it? And then you have then you start to have an idea, and then you can still size the opportunity, because the more narrow you become, the more money you can afterwards charge.
Yeah.
Because the price, or like what people are actually willing to pay for any solution, is defined by the amount of competition you have, not by the value that you're delivering. The value that you're delivering into a market is only telling you how much the ceiling is of what you can do what you can ask from someone, but the price that someone pays in the end is always dependent on what the alternatives are. That's why my cleaning lady, who's giving me back time, which is the most valuable thing in my life, only gets a certain amount of dollars per hour, because I can replace her relatively easy with someone else that does the same.
Wow.
Right?
I've had the same thing with cleaning ladies, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
That's a great
incredibly
example.
valuable.
Yeah.
But there's just because there's an alternative
Yeah.
that is easy to facilitate. That's why I'm not paying that much.
I got another question for you. It's also for my own selfish reasons, but I think it's going to benefit a lot of people out there trying to get the product-led growth, or use their product as a tool to kind of get people, for sales. So when we launched, and we've been around, we haven't been around for that long, but when we launched, and since then we've gotten like thousands of free trial signups. And originally we had like a waiting list because the product wasn't ready, and thousands of people signed up. And then slowly we've been like letting people in and inviting them in, but then we've just been like, experiencing a lot of, let's say, challenges with letting them in, and like learning a lot from it, and we've improved it a lot since then.
Yeah.
One of the things we learned was the time from somebody signing up for a trial until they get into the product is crazy important. So like we had so many signups, but when we eventually,
We're ready for it.
not like a lot of them didn't, take us up on it. That's one thing. Do you have any, like, I know this is a big question, but like, how do you think about like tips and tricks, or like just best practices with the product itself, if you're going to have an offer like a free trial for experience, example, what does it take to get people to love it?
What we're usually talking about is defining an aha moment.
Yes,
So
exactly.
the aha moment is a moment that is happening before someone is paying. So this is something that they need to experience inside of the product, because we know if someone is reaching this aha moment, they have a higher this is causative to converting them afterwards, right? So like there's a correlation there, in a sense that if someone is seeing, or like if someone is tasting our chocolate ice cream, that's going to make them repeat customers, whatever that is, right?
Yes, yes.
So defining this particular moment can be quite tricky, but you need to have a hypothesis around it on what that means. For instance, if you think that you have some kind of insight in your dashboard or analytics that make people go, this is actually much easier than what I thought compared to whatever. This is usually the things that you're starting to notice in sales calls. It's this moment where people go like, now I get it.
Yeah.
So for instance, at Got Photo, we had this kind of like a Shopify for photographers. When the photographers see the photos that they took in a web shop that they can then send to their own clients, that's the aha moment.
Yeah.
So if you have the aha moment, what you do with it is you define a time to value metric. So you say that from the moment where someone signs up to the moment where they experience the aha moment, we're going to reduce this time as much as we can.
Yeah.
You have two ways to do this. The first one is you make the user interface as simple as possible. The second thing is you remove everything else that would keep you from going there. Account pages, bullshit stuff, any checklists, fuck it. The only thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure that they get to this aha moment as fast as possible, and then you deal with the rest afterwards.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Superhuman used to be like a mailbox client where you have just on top of Google or like Gmail that was operated by hotkeys. They decided that you cannot skip their onboarding, and they're going to force you to use hotkeys to do specific stuff in their onboard. So it's like kind of like an arrested onboarding, because the conversion rates from people seeing how easy this feels once you do it was absolute crucial key. And they do not allow people to skip through the tutorial in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you know what your aha moment is, then sometimes the answer to getting there faster is a salesperson. Because if it requires you to set up a lot of stuff by yourself and it's too complicated for the average B2B marketer, like to see your data in action in this regard, then you need to have someone to help you with this.
Yeah.
Another opportunity that you have very often is to show an interactive demo of a demo environment that they can look at on the website directly, so they can see like, okay, this is not my data, but I see now how this works a little bit. This is different from a video. I'm talking about a very specific interactive demo that allows you to play around a little bit. And then you could say like, I wonder what's in here if I would plug my own data in. So this goes back to this point, convince people that they're trying you out.
Yeah.
So we're using stuff to drive this conversion as well. That's what I mean with the difficulty of product-led growth.
No, I mean, that makes total sense. And I have felt it on my own skin that, time to that, like getting into the product was just like incredibly important. And then finding your aha moment or wow moment, I guess that's something, that's, many companies probably search for their whole lives. So what about it's like when somebody has tried your product, and then how do you create I've been reading about a flywheel. Like, how do you get them to go and tell the whole world, actually, this product is awesome, and I bought it, and I'm going to tell everybody else about it. Like, how can you make everything shareable inside the product? Because
let's put it this way: given that which it is, the product is,
clicking,
and we had our aha moment. Would you say that the best practice is to create certain points for them to be able to talk about it? Or is it you, the company itself, who are writing case studies? Or are you trying to get testimonials out there? Or are we doing G4? Or
it depends a little bit on what your product is. So how much down market or up market it is. So down market would be a very, very cheap solution that does something very, very simple. for like $1 a month or whatever, like something, I don't know, like a very, very, it can still be a B2B product, like, I don't know, a conversion service for PDFs to PowerPoint slides, whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In general, reinforcement mechanics for recommendations that work in B2C, Instagram or whatever, or like anything where you recommend something and you get a free month, like on your own stuff, does not work in B2B. It doesn't. And the reason is that how do most of the recommendations in B2B work? How do you hear about something like this? I'm asking, like, how would I hear about a service that I really love? Like, what would be a
Through
typical
other
way?
people who are in my industry.
And you're going to them and you tell them like, hey, I have a problem and so forth. Like, why? Because you don't have a big brand. Of course, nobody knows you. So you rely on this word of mouth recommendation.
Yeah.
Now, if word of mouth recommendation is your goal to kind of generate, which is always the case for smaller brands,
Yeah.
and you're not going to like this answer, the only way to create word of mouth recommendations is by creating a product that knocks the sock off people.
I like it.
You're not only having to create something where they create an aha moment, but you need to turn them into fans. And fans is only possible if on a recurring kind of period over time, they keep saying that, yeah, this is really good, this is really good, this is really good. Then the word of mouth recommendations are starting to happen by itself. Unless you are super, super, super big, it's usually not worth it to have a team that deals with, like, hey, how do we increase word of mouth and so forth. I have one right now at User-Centrics. That's like 6 to 7 people in a 350 people team. So, we're dealing with like acquisition of virality and so forth. We also take care of like ratings on other platforms because word of mouth is also important that people can cross-check stuff. But outside of that, it's very, very difficult to kind of like trick this because the market knows, right? That's just what it is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah, for your time. This has been invaluable.
Super helpful.
I
I
am
mean,
going to be sending this to all of our small teams for sure, our clients just to listen to with a laptop in hand and to take notes, and a lot of the founders for sure. I think there's some hard truths in there for them.
totally. We kind of come from, our background is marketing, and I remember saying at one point, like, you could have the greatest product in the world, but if you don't have great marketing, nobody's gonna buy it. I'm gonna go on a limb here and eat my own hat, or all the hats, and gonna say, actually that I'm gonna, not stand by that point anymore. You can have a great product and it will sell itself. Of course, it helps if you have great marketing, but I mean, feeling it on my own skin now with the product is king and queen. So anyways, thanks a lot, Leah, for joining us today. It's been super helphappy.
And
Thank you
wait,
for
really
having me.
quickly, where can people find you, Leah?
I don't even know anymore what I have, but like I have my own website. It's www.leahtharin.com. You can also link it in the show notes, but in general, people will find me. So it's LeahTharin.com. That's where I publish all my stuff. I also have a podcast. I have to pick up my Slack there as well. And if you just Google my name, you find a lot of my stuff. And I'm product-led growth, right? So like all of my stuff is free. And I monetize only the upper market segment, so the companies that have too much money. But you can find me over on my website.
Awesome. All right. So that'll be super beneficial to our small teams. And thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.